2022, after a 2-year hiatus, the MUP ride returns. A rollicking 3-day drive, much of it through torrential downpours, took us across the great states of Nebraska, Iowa, then Wisconsin, and finally to Michigan. First stop, the lakeside town of Marquette, Michigan, home of Northern Michigan University and the Superior Dome, where all the bike riders would check in on the first day. After picking up our packets and checking in, it was time to set up camp. Then we had a pre-ride meeting for all participants. After that, we were treated to an unexpected but delightful concert put on by the Marquette Symphony Orchestra along the shores of Lake Superior. Before we knew it, it was time to turn in and go to sleep ahead of our big day starting tomorrow. The next day, we had a beautiful sunrise over the shores of Lake Superior as it welcomed us to what looked to be a spectacular new day. Cyclists from many states and several foreign countries climbed aboard their two-wheel steeds and set off in eager anticipation of the morning's ride. Today's route was from Marquette to Munising. Today's ride took us along a beautiful shoreline path that traced the outline of Lake Superior, before heading inland and finally taking us to Mustang Stadium in downtown Munising.
Is this the final hill?
Weary but happy cyclists climbed the final hill, collected their bags, and then set up the tent city that would be our home for our stay while in Munising. The heavy rains that fell overnight continued into the next morning, making for wet and soggy riding conditions. Still, several cyclists did complete the Century ride that was scheduled for this day. The town of Munising has a beautiful little harbor, and there's a lot to see in and around the town. Finally, when the sun came out, we took a jaunt out to Sand Point, which was really nice after the heavy rains. One of the options offered during the MUP ride this year was to take a scenic cruise along the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. Coming up on the right, there's no bridle there above. Pictured Rocks area offers not just the opportunity to take a scenic cruise, but to get out in all sorts of smaller boats, including kayaks, to do some individual touring. Coming up on the right. There is a hiking path that takes you up on the high cliffs along most of the route, but it really was a special treat to be out on the water to see all the scenic wonders of this magnificent area. Do our best to answer it for you. One of the highlights on the way back was a quick stop at the Grand Island East Channel Lighthouse. This lighthouse was originally constructed way back in 1868. Our next day's ride would take us from Munising to the town of Manistee, across to the southern portion of the Upper Peninsula. Manistee is located on Lake Michigan and has a beautiful lighthouse. Known as the East Breakwater Lighthouse, this lighthouse dates to 1916. Back in camp, it was once again time to set up our trusty tents for the night ahead. Our next day's ride would take us some 60+ miles to the little town of Chatham, Michigan, where we were greeted by ice cream, but thankfully Neil, our wonderful tour director, had thought of an interesting alternative for personal hygiene. How about a shout out to some of the special folks who really did help support us during this week's ride. Way too soon, it was once again time for pleasant dreams. Though for Neil, our tour director, he was generally up at all hours of the day and night. And before we knew it, it was the last day of the ride, taking us from Chatham back to Marquette. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan offers some great scenery, superb riding conditions, generally nice weather, but at the end of the day, it was all the friendly riders that made this ride such an enjoyable week. And not to be forgotten, our final day offered some dirt terrain and even a little hike-a-bike. And then it was back on the Lakeshore Trail, taking us into the scenic town of Marquette and our final destination, the Superior Dome. You made it! You made it! You made it! The tired legs and sore muscles will soon be forgotten, but what will remain will be the wonderful memories and new friendships that were made during the MUP ride of 2022.